The call lasted than a minute. No screaming, no chaos, just a man whispering. They are inside the house, and then they are not. The line cut, dead silence. No one ever called back. Now, here is the part that makes this worse. That call wasn't recorded because it happened years before emergency lines were even common. No official transcript, no proof, just something people later claimed might have happened after 6 people were found brutally murdered on a remote farm in Germany, and to this day, no one knows who did it or why the killer stayed there for days after. This happened in 1922 on a small isolated farmland called Hinterkaifeck near the village of Gruben. Quiet area, nothing unusual, just farmlands crashing into silence. The family living there was the Grubers. Andres Gruber, the father, hard man, scripts. People in the village didn't really like him. Then was his wife, Gazilia Gruber, their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, and Victoria's 2 children, 7-year-old Gazilia Gabriel and 2-year-old Joseph Gabriel, plus a new maid who had just started working there. 6 people in total, a normal rural household, at least on the surface. A few days before the murders, Andres Gruber told neighbors something strange. He said he found footprints in the snow leading towards the house, but not away. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. Maybe a traveler, maybe someone passing through. But then, he checked the outbuildings, the tool shed, the barn, nothing stolen, nothing broken, just wrong. Then he heard footsteps in the attic, late at night, slow, dragging, like someone moving carefully above them, inside the house. But when he checked, no one was there, no sign of forced entry, nothing missing, nothing disturbed, just silence. And that's when things get strange, because instead of leaving, instead of calling for help, he stayed. Days passed and the tension grew. The maid who had been working there before suddenly quit. She claimed the place was haunted. She said she heard noises, felt wash. She refused to stay another night, so the family hired a new maid. Her name was Maria Gompotna. She arrived on March 31st. She had no idea what she was walking into. That same day, the family was alive. Neighbors saw them. Nothing unusual. Children playing, farm chores, normal life. And then, night came. We don't know exactly what happened, but we know how it started. One by one, members of the family were lured into the barn, not all at once, individually. There was no sign of struggle inside the house, which means something or someone drew them out, and when they stepped into that van, they were killed violently, brutally, with a mattock, a farm tool, heavy, sharp, personal, and the way the bodies were found suggested that something disturbing. They weren't all killed at once. Some of them were alive, while others were already dead. One of the children, young Gazilia, had clumps of her own hair in her hands, like she had been lying there, injured, pulling her hair out in agony, for hours, alive, listening, in the dark. But it didn't stop in the van. The killer then entered the house. Inside, 2-year-old Joseph was in his crib, sleeping. He was killed where he lay. Then the maid, Maria, she just arrived that very day, on her way, unprepared. She was killed in her bed. No chance to run, no warning, just silence, and then nothing. Here is where it becomes something else entirely, because the killer didn't leave, not immediately. For days, life in the van seemed normal. That's what people noticed. The animals were fed, the cows were milked, smoke was seen coming from the chimney. Someone was still there, living inside a house full of corpses, eating their food, tending their animals, sleeping under the same roof. Imagine that, walking past bodies in the dark, stepping over them, hearing nothing but silence. Day after day, it wasn't until several days later that neighbors became concerned. The children hadn't showed up for school. Mail was piling up. Something felt wrong, so they went to check, and what they found stayed with them for the rest of their lives. The barn was the first place they looked, and that's where they found 4 bodies, stacked, covered partially, like someone had tried to hide them. Then inside the house, the rest. The baby, the maid, dead, cold, the entire family, gone. The investigation began, and almost immediately things didn't make sense. There was no sign of forced entry, no robbery, money was still there, valuables untouched, the murder weapon found on the property, which means the killer didn't even bring it or didn't need to. And then, those footprints still only leading towards the house, none living. Police questioned everybody, neighbors, travelers, Workers, nothing, no suspect, no motive, just theories. Some believed it was someone the family knew, someone they trusted. Others thought it was a drifter living in the attic, watching them, waiting. Some even believed the killer had been inside the house for days before the murders, listening, learning their routines, moving quietly above their heads. And if that is true, then every night before they died, someone was already there, watching, breathing the same air, waiting for the right moment. Years passed, then decade. The case was never solved. Even modern investigators couldn't close it. No DNA, no confession, no answers, just silence and one lingering question. Why stay? Why risk being caught? Why life in that house after what was done? Some investigators believe the killer felt comfortable, at home, like he belonged there. Others thought something was disturbing, that he wasn't finished, that maybe he didn't leave the house because he didn't need to. Because to him, that house was never a crime scene. It was just his house now. Sometimes I think about that farm at night, when moving through empty fields, floorboards cracking, and an attic that might not have been empty after all. Because the scariest part isn't how they died, it's the possibility that someone was already living above them, long before the killing even started.